this thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg Pukirky. Your guest's name is Matthew Hubacher. He is the Invest Buffalo Niagara Research Director. He makes up our crack research staff that helps us attract new companies to the region and market ourselves to site selectors, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about on this episode. If you don't know what a site selector is, stay tuned. If you want to know how we work with them, stay tuned. If you don't care anything about it, stay tuned because we talk about chicken wings. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right. Welcome to the Bell Ringer studio. Thank you very much for coming in. I know it was a far journey for you.
It was, Greg. Glad to be here. I made the treacherous walk down the hall to the studio this morning, so appreciate you having me.
So we're going to be talking about site selectors. For the audience that maybe doesn't know, who exactly are site selectors? What do they do?
So at the most basic level, site selectors or site location consultants provide location analysis to companies considering investment. Now, within those investment decisions, whether they be a new production facility or a new distribution center or a second headquarters, there are a lot of aspects that go into those decisions, whether they be real estate or logistics or supply chain or incentives or workforce and talent or colleges and university access. Site selection consultants provide detailed analyses of all of those factors that go into a company's investment decisions. Site selectors do this every day. This is their job, to consult companies making these decisions, whereas a company who's doing an expansion or relocation project might have only done one of those in the past or maybe none of those in the past. It might be their first expansion project. Site selection consultants do this every day and help their clients make the best decision possible for their business needs.
So why is our relationship with them so important then?
So the relationship between economic development organizations and site selectors is really, symbiotic. So we economic developers provide, on the ground, real time information to the site selection consultants. Oftentimes, these expansion and relocation projects are happening over multiple states, and they need, economic developers to provide real-time data to them in a timely fashion. In turn, economic development organizations like Invest Buffalo Niagara rely on site selectors to provide, leads. They are not necessarily the companies who are making investment decisions, but they are those companies' consultants. Site selectors are certainly deal influencers, and we want to make sure that they have the most up-to-date information on what's going on in Buffalo Niagara so that they can hopefully select us for a deal.
Yeah, and so what are the ways in which our organization and you specifically try and build those relationships with site selectors?
So it's multifaceted, and before I get to more of the tactics, I think it's probably important to start first on why it's important to have a single point of contact. Right. And I act as that kind of single point of contact within Invest Buffalo Niagara. I essentially manage the relationship between the organization and the site selection community, and that's important because when a site selector needs information, he or she needs to have a single, one person that they know that they can contact, that they can rely on to provide information, in a very timely fashion. So that's, my role within the organization, or one of my roles within the organization. And the way we communicate that with the community is multifaceted. So we do a lot of one-on-one meetings, whether they be at site selection, conferences, pre-planned, conferences that are organized by various entities. We also meet one-on-one in site selectors' offices when we're in town for trade shows or other travel. We try to combine trips to make sure that we are, making the best use of our travel spend. And we also have a quarterly e-newsletter that we send out to a distribution list of approximately 400 or 450 site selection and corporate real estate personnel that updates them on the goings-on in the region, whether that be business expansion or sometimes contraction stories. We update them on some of the new marketing material that Invest Buffalo Niagara has created, and also we just keep them apprised of kind of what's happening in the news, what's happening in the regional economy, so they keep Buffalo Niagara top of mind, in their day-to-day work.
And you talked a lot about the travel, meeting these people face to face, and part of the reason why we're recording this is to share that story. And we're recording this the week before it'll release. So as people are listening, you will be in what city? What conference?
I'll be in sunny Miami, Florida, at a conference, at a site selection conference, the Area Development Consultants Forum, which is put on by Area Development Magazine, which is a industry publication, and they do quarterly meetings to get economic developers and site selectors together to meet and discuss. Just kind of, again, the goings-on of what's happening in our region, and then we as economic developers learn, tips and best practices that the site selectors are seeing across the country. At the same time, our Chief Operating Officer, Jenna Kavanaugh, will be in Nashville, Tennessee, to attend Economics, which is another site selection event put on by Consultants Connect, which is, again, another entity that brings together economic developers and site selectors. And so Jenna will be interacting with site selection consultants and learning, best practices and tips from them in Nashville. At the same time, I will be doing the same in Miami.
And you've, even in just the past few months, up to a year, you've been to a couple of these conferences. So what other places have we sent you to make these connections?
Yeah, so we've attended a handful of events kind of year over year, one being Site Selectors Guild Fall Forum. Site Selectors Guild is a professional organization of the top 45 site selectors in the country, and they get together for a fall forum every year, which I've attended the last 3 years. So I have journeyed out to Little Rock, Arkansas, Seattle, Washington, and Greenville, South Carolina for those events. I've also attended a Consultants Connect event in Dallas, Texas, in which I engaged in, a couple dozen one-on-one, I call it speed dating rounds with various consultants, which is just as much to make that personal connection as it is to share information about the region. And that was a very good experience that we will look to continue in another city, throughout the next year or so. And then I've also been to Chicago, Illinois, to do just and Toronto, Ontario, just to do some one-on-one meetings while I was there attending another business conference. Again, just to make the acquaintance of the site selection community and share information about the region.
So we laid the foundation for why these relationships are important, and now let's talk about the proof. What's a win that we've had that's come directly from a site selector, and how does that process work?
So I mentioned site selectors are deal influencers, and their clients are the companies making investment decisions. So we rely on them for lead generation, and in the last handful of years, we've turned those leads into project wins. So two of the larger site selection wins that we've had recently, one being Bridgestone APM. This is a multinational automotive parts manufacturer, and they had a project that they were looking to site a manufacturing facility that makes foam inserts for car seats, and they located that project up in Niagara County. That the site selector on the Bridgestone APM deal was a member of Site Selection Guild, so it was good to make that connection. From attending the forums to then actually working with the Site Selector Guild member on a live project. That brought 60 jobs to Niagara County and had an investment of $15 million. And then also the Sodexo project in the Airborne Business Park in Cheektowaga. That was another deal that came to us via Site Selector out of Dallas. And that retained and created over 500 jobs in the region with a capital investment of over $25 million.
That's incredible. So when you go and meet these site selectors, the one thing that I wanted to talk about before our blizzard round was we often equip you with some Buffalo delicacies. Mm-hmm. Last time it was sponge candy. how is that received by these site selectors that maybe have never seen or heard of that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Whether or not they've heard of it or not is a great tell on whether there's a Buffalo connection or not. If they know what sponge candy is, then I know, automatically I've got a connection to someone
Right.
that either they or their family, or they've been to Buffalo, they went to school to Buffalo, whatever that may be. So that's always a good hook. And if they're not familiar with sponge candy, as soon as they try it, they're immediately hooked. And of course, I offer to replenish the stock to keep them thinking about Buffalo Niagara, year round.
Yeah. And so you're out helping to push the Buffalo Niagara reputation, improve our perception to those that maybe don't know us as well. How can people listening do the same if they're not an economic researcher and a site selection main contact for an economic development organization?
Yeah, the main point I think for Invest Buffalo Niagara's involvement is that the community has a group of dedicated professionals that are working to ensure that the region is top of mind with the site selection community. Beyond that, the Pitch Buffalo Niagara is the perfect way that people can receive information from Invest Buffalo Niagara, share that information via social media, whether it be their LinkedIn accounts, Facebook account, Twitter accounts, and just get that message out to a broader audience, whether or not it's the site selection community. Getting a positive message about the region out to a broader community is the best way that we can make sure we're sharing good news and keep this positive energy going in the region.
All right, great. And I'll include that link in the podcast description underneath the play button. Thank you so much for helping us on the podcast. I just have a few final Blizzard round questions for you. Learn about your coworker. If you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
I would be pistachio ice cream because it's my favorite ice cream and it's clearly the best ice cream, so has to be pistachio ice cream.
Definitive answer. Good. Book or TV show that you'd recommend?
My favorite TV show of all time is The West Wing, so if anyone is not familiar with The West Wing, I would highly recommend catching up on that via Netflix or the other streaming.
Okay. Text or phone call?
I would say go with the text. Phone. If it's a phone call, it better be an emergency. So if I get a phone call that someone just wants to chit-chat, that's probably not the way to go, so I'm a text guy for immediate answers.
All right. Bills or Sabres?
Sabres 100%. I am a Sabres season ticket holder now for 10 or 11 years, and I'm just so happy with the way that the season is going thus far. We are on 10 wins in a row, hopefully extending that to 11 this evening, which is Thursday night.
Hopefully when you guys are listening, we still haven't lost. Hiking or skiing?
Skiing with the family. My kids, I have 3, young daughters. The older 2, Madison and Morgan, I've been taking skiing lessons for the last couple of years. So hopefully we can get them out on the slopes sometime either later this year, 2018, or early next year, 2019.
Cool. And final question, the hardest one: chicken wings, drumstick or flat?
Yeah, I say this all the time. It doesn't matter either way. The most important thing when eating a wing is it's a one-handed food. You don't want to come with the dainty pinkies up while you're eating a wing. So either way, whether you like the drumstick or the wing, for goodness sakes, use one hand and be proud.
All right, from a true Buffalonian, thank you very much for being on, man.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Bellringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's privately funded, nonprofit marketing and economic development organization. Please rate this podcast, follow our social media channels, and read our blog at buffaloniagara.org for the best of Buffalo Niagara. Come grow your business with us.